So then guys, today we're going to answer that question. Have Apple failed with their new M4 Max in GPU performance over the likes of, say, a laptop with an RTX 4090 inside there? Obviously the mobile edition, and just like this laptop I have right here, this is the MSI Stealth 18 AI Studio A1. But for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to call it the MSI or the, A1. I think that's probably just going to be easier for that. Now, first of all, you may have noticed that we have a bit of a David and Goliath sort of situation here. This is a 14-inch MacBook Pro, what we're seeing right here, but it does have the most powerful M4 inside of it, the M4 Max with the top amount of 40 GPU cores and also the 20 core CPU, and we've also got 128 gigabytes of RAM inside of it. And the same with this device right here, the MSI. What we've got in here, we have got an Intel i9 Ultra, that's the 185H version of the chip inside of this. This is I think it's a 16 core 22 thread version, and then obviously we do also have the 4090 inside of us, the laptop edition of that, and that comes with 16 gigabytes of RAM too. Now, what I'm not really going to compare today is what you get in ports wise, what you get in kind of ports on here, how fast they are. Also, for example, like the size of the screen. This is an 18-inch screen, it's the 14.2-inch screen. But to keep things a little bit fairer for the test, both these screens are mini LED displays, so that will help out a little bit here in some of these little tests that we're going to do today. But what we're mainly going to do today is compare the performance that we get in both of these devices. This here is one of the most powerful sort of laptops out there right now, and it'll set you back about $3,300 or so for this. And then obviously this here is one of the most powerful sort of MacBook Pros out there. Obviously it's a smaller body because you can get the 16-inch model, but the actual chip inside of it, the top amount of cores, the top amount of RAM, it is the most powerful MacBook Pro that you get out there, and that's what we're mainly going to compare. And first of all, what I've decided to do for you guys is talk about the actual hard drive speeds. Now, one thing I will say about the MSI that we've got right here, before jumping into that, is that we can also obviously upgrade the RAM inside of this, and we can also upgrade the SSD inside this too, the M.2 NVMe, and actually there's two slots from inside of this. Whereas a MacBook Pro, you have to actually choose what you want when you buy it, and then obviously there's no upgrades from that point onwards. You cannot upgrade the RAM, you cannot upgrade any of your storage inside unless you're really clever with a soldering iron. But apart from that, you can't really naturally just take a piece out, slot something new in. It just cannot be done on a MacBook. But let's have a look then at the speed then of the actual SSDs. So what I've done then, I've ran some speed tests on both of these laptops, and you can see here then in the chart that the M4 Max with the 1 terabyte, well, we were getting sort of read speeds of about 5,765 compared to 7,090 on the 2 terabytes in this MSI laptop. So it's quite impressive that the read speed is way ahead there inside of the MSI laptop. And I will say this, that this is definitely a big advantage, because for mainly kind of for games, I mean, this sort of reading speeds are definitely more worthwhile than having the writing speeds. Whereas if you're more of a creator or something like this, write speeds are better for a MacBook Pro. And you can see that in this chart here, that the M4 Max 1 terabytes, we're getting speeds of 8,329 megabytes, what's crazy to see, whereas we're only getting 5,186 in write speeds on the 2 terabyte drive. We can see then obviously that these drives have been optimized for their actual purposes here. Not trying to say that this is slow in doing writing, I'm not trying to say this is slow in reading, but you can see how they're kind of been designed, to have the right type of drives inside of them. But moving on from that then, let's talk then about CPU, and to be deadly honest with you, I'm just going to brush over this because the main thing we want to look at is graphics. So what I've decided to do first of all is run Geekbench 6 single and multi-core tests, and you can see here with the M4 Max, what I mentioned at the beginning, this is the top range M4 Max with the 20 cores, and we got just over 4,000 in single core performance, which was really amazing to see, and we're just under 26,000 in multi-core performance. We've got 25,965. But then with the Intel i9 Ultra, what's inside of this, the 185H, the 16-core version that we got here, the single core we got was 2,441 compared to 13,352. So Apple straight away leads here in Geekbench scoring. Not to say this is slow at all, but obviously we'll see what happens with graphics because things might change there. But for overall sort of CPU intense sort of task straight away with Geekbench, you know, the MacBook is winning. But let's have a look then at another test then with CPU. Let's have a look at Cinebench. And this was Cinebench 2024, single and multi-core again, and we can see the M4 Max scored single core performance 178, whereas the Intel i9 Ultra, that got 106, so definitely far less there. And then we can also see a multi-core performance, we've got 1,962 out of the M4 Max, and with the 16 core, we got 1,578 with that Intel chip. And like I said, for what it is, this is still quite impressive, this Intel chip. Obviously, it's not as fast as this, but you know, for gaming and things like this, what we're about to see, this is definitely be more than enough for most people out there. But let's flip over then to the main events, what most of you guys want to see in sort of benchmarks, what's going on in the graphics department with the RTX 4090, the laptop edition, versus here the M4 Max, what's going inside here with the 40 GPU cores and 128 gigabytes of RAM. Let's take a look, and first of all, let's have a look at Geekbench OpenCL graphics tests. And you can see here that the M4 Max with its 40 GPU cores, we got a score of 15,926, whereas the RTX 4090, like I said, the 16 gigabyte laptop mobile edition here, it got a score 169,987, almost 170,000 there. So straight away, this is way ahead here in GPU performance. But if we do another test now, let's do a sort of Cinebench sort of test now with the graphics here. Let's check this out. Well, we can see then with the M4 Max with its 40 cores that we got 16,566. And then with the RTX 4090, we got 20,189. So with this result then, the score was a little bit closer between both of these. And remember, Cinebench 2024 has now been fully optimized now for Macs, whereas it wasn't before when we used to have the R version with that. And the same thing here, we can get Cinebench 2024. So it's interesting to see how close that both of these are now. But next of all, let's move over then to 3D Mark and Wildlife Extreme Unlimited, and let's see what the differences are here. So with the M4 Max, the 40 core, it scored 36,386, whereas the RTX 4090, the 16 gigabyte, scored 35,528. So we can see that the scores have got super close between the MacBook Pro with the M4 Max and also this 4090 in this MSI. And do you want to know something else, what is close by? Well, that is the giveaway we are doing on this channel for this right here. This here is an iPhone 16 Pro Max, and I'm having a giveaway near the end of December time, just before Christmas, and you can still enter in right now. This here is the Desert Titanium model, 256 gigabytes of storage inside of it, and like I said, I'm giving it away to one lucky subscriber. And all you have to do at this stage at the moment is just put down into the comments below of what technology gear that you're hoping to get in 2024, or maybe even into early 2025. Maybe it's going to be a new MacBook. Maybe it's going to be a gaming laptop instead. Maybe it's going to be something completely different like a PS5 Pro or DJI drone or something like this. Let me know in the comments below right now. And the other thing what I would also say is like I said, I will be doing more details about the giveaway just before Christmas time, and also announcing when I'm going to be doing the live stream to give this iPhone 16 Pro Max away. So you won't want to miss out on that, because there will be a little form to fill in near that time for the giveaway too. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to this channel and also hit that notification bell too. And the other reason why you want to subscribe is because, like I said, I'm giving it away to a subscriber. The last thing I just want to quickly say is, sadly, there are still lots of scammers and spammers out there. People still impersonating me too, telling you to WhatsApp, Telegram, even Instagram direct message. Please do ignore these people, or better, you can see right here, please do report them. So moving on then, let's talk about games then, how they run. But just before we do that, the other thing I wanted to test on both of these was Premiere. And when I mean Premiere, I'm talking about Adobe Premiere. And I wanted to see if I did a HEVC 10-minute export, how long it would take for both of these laptops to export the same file. Well, you can take a look right here. you can see that the M4 Max with its 40 core did this in 126 seconds, whereas the RTX 4090, well, it did it in 143 seconds. And I think one of the main advantages why the M4 Max leapt out in front here is obviously it's got the two media engines in here, encoders and decoders. All the Max series have two of them inside it, and that really has helped there. Obviously the RTX 4090 is really good too, but obviously having those dedicated two, especially for that, and obviously Adobe Premiere taking advantage of that, that has really helped out there. But moving on then, let's have a look then at games. Now, one thing I would say is that the first two games that I tested on both of these, for the actual MacBook Pro, I use Crossover to actually test these games out. And Crossover allows you to technically run, say, Windows games, as it were, on a MacBook, but it's not been fully optimized for it. So you do get some sort of drawbacks for that. So the first game I tested out was the classic GTA 5. And just in case you wanted to know, I did actually set both of these laptops to be set at very high preferences, the same resolution of 1920 by 1200, and that's for all the games that we're testing out here. And then I actually decided to start doing the benchmark sort of testing on both of these, and you can see the results right here. With the M4 Max with the 40 core, we got around about 110 frames per second, what was really impressive to see. Like I said, especially the games not being built natively for the MacBook Pro M4 Max, whereas with the RTX 4090, well, you can see here we got frames per second 172 out of this, what is really impressive. Definitely designed to be a gaming laptop. So the next game after GTA 5 I wanted to test out was Cyberpunk 2077. Now it's quite interesting to actually hear this, that Cyberpunk 2077 works on Crossover, but it actually is also come natively to the Mac in early 2025. But I wanted to test this anyway, just to see how well it performs on the M4 Max using Crossover, and it doesn't, like I said, use the full potential, but it's interesting to actually see what the results will be, and also that I set everything to ultra high on both of these, and then also I've not used anything like FSR, DLSS, anything like that whatsoever on both of it. It's literally the raw graphics. So let's take a look at this chart then to see what the differences that we got. So with the M4 Max with the 40 core, we were actually getting around about 86 frames per second. And like I said, this is the same resolution here, 1920 by 1200. And then the RTX 4090, again, nothing switched on like FSR, DLSS. We were getting 98 frames per second. So this is even closer than you think now. And like I'll say again, the scary thing is this has not even been built directly for the MacBook Pro at this stage, you know, with Cyberpunk 2077. This is, like I said, it's using kind of a sort of like a middle emulator sort of way through. So we're not actually using the full potential of everything with this, and it's not being optimized for the M4 Max. So it's going to be really interesting to see when Cyberpunk 2077 comes out natively for the Mac, what kind of scores we'll get there compared to this laptop here. And I, for one, am going to be quite interested to see what happens there. But then the last game, what I do want to test out for you guys is Rise of the Tomb Raider, because this actually has been built natively for Windows, and there's actually a native version built for Mac OS. And this one is the most shocking one of them all, I'm going to say that. No word of a lie here, with Rise of the Tomb Raider, and this here was on a high sort of settings and everything, and again a resolution of 1920 by 1200. The M4 Max absolutely squashed the RTX 4090. It was getting on average 175 frames per second, and the RTX 4090, well, that got 114 frames per second, what is really crazy to hear. And like I said, I didn't turn on any kind of DLSS or any FSR, anything like that here on this machine, and there's been nothing else being switched on for, you know, Tomb Raider on here too. But it's been super interesting to see that natively that this has actually beaten out this here. We're just using raw GPU power. And like I said about Cyberpunk earlier, well, that is going to make things very interesting to see with just raw power, no DLSS or anything like that, what that's going to do compared to this device here. So yeah, that is really interesting to see that. Now, something else that you guys are probably wanting to know is what about thermals? Because obviously this is the 14-inch MacBook Pro, and then this one here, you know, this is an 18-inch device with far more space, bigger fans inside it, what kind of results were we getting there? Well, the best thing what I decided to do with this was I decided to run Cinebench 2024 and then run a 10-minute CPU multi-core test and seeing what temperatures we were getting. And you can see here that the M4 Max, well, it did get quite toasty with its 20 CPU cores. It got up to 98 degrees here. So, that's in Celsius. That is quite high. Whereas the Intel i9 Ultra, it seems a bit more efficient here, or maybe the fans are just working really, really well inside of its MSI, where it only got up to 81 degrees at its peak. And to be deadly honest, I'm not too surprised by this, because if you have a listen here to the fans of the MSI, see how loud they really are when this was running. But moving on, what I decided to do after this was do a very similar test again in Cinebench, but this time do a GPU test of the graphics and doing 10 minutes to see what sort of temperatures we were getting here. So let's take a look. So with the M4 Max with the 40 core GPU, we were getting around about 97 degrees Celsius, whereas the RTX 4090, it was getting around about, say, 86 degrees. So this definitely was cooler, but what I will say again was the fans and hiss were going super loud. They were proper pushing to keep this cool. So I will say that. And the fans were kicking in here, but they weren't as loud as the ones in here. So I can tell that these were definitely running faster inside of the MSI. Now, what I decided to do after this was to check out battery life in both of these. Now, with this, what I will say is obviously we do have a 14-inch MacBook Pro right here. And with the M4 Max, we've been told we can get up to 18 hours battery life. That's with men with white lab coats on, trickling it and doing weird tests to get 18 hours out of this. Whereas with the 16-inch version of this, you can actually get up to 21 hours battery life. So that's around about 1/9 more sort of battery life, I would say. I can't do the maths fully. That's thereabout sort of thing. So yeah, just be aware of that. But then what I decided to do is, like I said, I ran the GPU test again, and I just kept running it over and over again, the 30-minute test until the batteries dies. And this is how long both of these lasted. We can see that the M4 Max 14.2-inch lasted 65 minutes with this. Now, what I decided to do after that is, like I said, I don't have the M4 Max with the exact same specs here, so I'm doing a predicted kind of amount. And like I said, that the battery on average is about 1/9 longer with that 18-hour to 21-hour I just spoke about just a second ago. And if you just missed that, rewind back about 25 seconds, you'll hear me talk about what I was saying there. So I reckon that you'd probably get around about 71 minutes, I would say, if we did exactly the same test, give or take. I might be a minute or two out each direction, but the main difference is what you can see at the bottom here is the MSI 18-inch with the 4090. Well, that only did this in 43 minutes until the battery was dead. Now, we could say that this test was unfair because it's not like for like, and I am going to agree there, but I know I'm going to get questions in the comments going, what was battery life? You should have done a battery life comparison. And this is the best what I can really give you guys. So take it as it is. That's what I'm going to say there, in what I could only do, limited with what I had. So yeah, I'll just say that. But what is most interesting to see here is obviously with CPU performance, how far this device is. But then with GPU performance, it's quite also interesting, like we saw with Cyberpunk and we also saw with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, was the actual difference in the actual frames per second. And that a game that's going to be optimized like Cyberpunk, it could even overtake the 4090 with just using the raw GPU power without any DLSS or anything like that. And that was really interesting to see. So to answer the big question, has Apple failed here on this? I don't believe so. I think Apple are onto something, and I think that Apple really, especially with games, they need to optimize their games even more, get more developers on board, because I think they've got something here, and this could potentially work. Especially like this one here, this MacBook we got right here, I must admit, it costs you around about, say, just over $4,500 with the 1 TB drive and the 128 GB, you know, storage inside of it and all the cores and everything. Whereas this one here is about $3,500, so it is a bit cheaper. But you know, it's one of those sort of things. It's quite hard to work out the sort of difference. But if you're spending that much money for doing creator sort of bits and pieces, you know, I think Apple needs to give the ability now that you could use this device for gaming, just like with this one here, that you can use it for gaming, but you can also use it as a creator's device. You know, Windows is up there with this, and this is where I'd love to see the MacBook with games going forwards. But those are my thoughts there. What are your thoughts on this? Did you like this comparison today? And let me know in the comments below if you're going to thinking of buying of either of these devices or something like this. Let me know below. And with that as well, guys, it's time to wrap up this video. So if you have enjoyed watching it, please do press the like button. Also, if you want to hear the latest Apple news, reviews, and comparisons too, make sure you subscribe to the channel and also hit that notification bell. Until next time, guys, I'll see you really soon. Take care. Bye-bye.